George Russell has been the subject of the hot debate over the past 2 weeks, and for all the right reasons. His Mercedes seat is very far from being safe at the moment, especially after the recent wave of statements from both Toto Wolff and Russell himself. The elephant in the room hence remains. Are we on the cusp of a seismic shakeup, with Max Verstappen inheriting George Russell's seat at Mercedes? And if that were to be the case, what does the future hold for Russell in F1? Where does he even head after that? Let's not beat around the bush. Russell is in a susceptible situation, and the main reason for that is the one and only Max Verstappen. The four-time world champion's unexpected availability has upended the whole F1 paddock. With Red Bull dissolving before our very eyes, Max's taste for alpha dogging, no matter what badge is on the car, is leading him out the door, and no one values the ramifications of that more than Russell. Speaking directly of Toto Wolff's interest in Verstappen potentially replacing him, Russell responded, I mean, every team has two seats up for grabs, and it's natural that every team is thinking what the future will be like. I don't take it personally because I've made it clear from the beginning. I'm happy to be teammates with anybody. Of course, there are talks and rumors, and all of these have been directed towards me. But from my end, that is not going to happen. I want to remain with Mercedes in the future. The fact is, Toto has never disappointed me. That may sound assertive, but things really are more tense. Wolff is clearly thinking about the potential of Verstappen joining Mercedes, and despite Max claiming nothing new has occurred since last week, the writing is on the wall. Regardless of whether fans like it or not, Verstappen is seriously considering an exit from Red Bull. Even Zach Brown had his 2 cents with the now infamous quote, where there's smoke, there's fire, and if Max is on the market, Wolff will spin the whole Mercedes tail to get him on the market in silver. That is the cold truth. And Russell cannot do anything but accept it. Let us be real here. Max is seriously planning on leaving Red Bull. George still does not have a contract extension. If all were so secure for Mercedes, the whole drama would have been closed by now. But it wasn't, and understandably so. Toto Wolff better than anyone knows that a driver like Max doesn't come along every day. Even if a change does not happen for 2026, Max to Mercedes for 2027 is highly on the table. Either way, it's not good news for Russell. F1 pundit Martin Brundle has also spoken in depth on this situation, guessing that George has indeed been ringing up other teams, and quite honestly, it's the prudent thing to do. When you have no idea what your future is, you prepare for all eventualities. I think George Russell is apprehensive and ringing about a bit. There's no smoke without fire. 2026 is massive, the biggest regulation shakeup in F1's history for power units and chassis. Mercedes would have you believe they'd be right at or near the top. But can you say the same about Red Bull? And can Max even escape his contract? Something is not adding up. So why is Russell receiving all this uncertainty from Wolff if he apparently thinks so much of him? Because subconsciously, he is aware that the Austrian team boss continues to be fixated on Verstappen, and with Kimi Antonelli in the process of being groomed as Mercedes' new gem, Russell's place is already under grave threat. But there are a lot of benefits that he also has to offer. For one, he's the team leader currently, and he's been in Mercedes' family since his early life in 2019. Let's not also forget that Russell is controlled by Mercedes when it comes to his career and that he drove for 3 seasons in Williams, where he had so much trouble with the back marker of the team that Williams was in the past. Moreover, Russell came in as Bottas's substitute and was promoted to being the leader after Hamilton departed. So, those are rather large shoes to fill. And let's not forget another thing. Russell is now quite close to Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship because their cars have been leveled more or less in terms of ability. I'm not stating that he's a better choice than Verstappen, but there are a few other issues you'd have to weigh here, such as wanting to be on a team long-term and be able to retire in your 40s. Those aren't qualities Verstappen has. Quite the opposite, actually. The four-world champion mentioned that he does not wish to be in the sport for all his life, and he's going to retire most probably in his 30s. So, it leaves Mercedes in a really big gamble. Let's say that they sign him, and 2 years into the contract, Verstappen decides that enough is enough and he'll retire. It will be a disaster for the team. And while they're a big market squad and can have a big name whenever they want, they'd have to keep in mind that they just released Russell so that they could have Verstappen in their roster. One of the biggest concerns has been raised by Carlos Sainz as well, who believes that his co-worker is in a very difficult position right now, because even if everybody tries to hide the truth, they're right before your eyes. Addressing the current Russell-Mercedes situation, Sainz said, "As a racing driver, it's not an ideal situation. We all try and hide the fact that it affects you, but we try not to be affected. I strongly believe, like I did last year, you can have a very strong season with all this noise going around you and your future in the team. It can be proved by what George is doing this year. At the same time, it's not ideal. It's noise for you. It's noise for the team, for your engineers, and for your mechanics. In an ideal situation, the way you go racing, the way that you're getting the results, and the way you're being a world champion is when all of this is quiet and when there's 100% trust between you and the team. If this happens, what are the options that Russell has? For starters, he could be joining Aston Martin, a team that reportedly expressed interest in him because of the high profile of a driver that Russell presents himself as. On the other hand, we need to be looking at the current structure of the Silverstone base squad and understand whether George would have a good time in adapting to the nepotism there. Let's not fool ourselves. Aston Martin could be highly competitive soon, and if the investments in Newey, Honda, and the facilities in Silverstone pay off, then a champion is not out of the cards. I highly doubt that Lance Stroll has what it takes to win a title for the team of his father. So perhaps there'll be an increased pressure to keep Alonso and pair him up with Russell. Even if this is not the case, George would likely replace Alonso, who's very close to retirement. The two-time world champion could leave his position and become an ambassador of the team, which would allow them to sign Russell because opportunities like this don't present themselves very often on the grid. If this is not what George wants, then he can still think of a move in Red Bull. The Austrian team seems like the most logical solution for the services of the Brit, and we know for a fact that Horner was interested in him not that long ago. According to the team principal of Red Bull, it would be foolish to not consider Russell in the following period as a driver for your team. But George denied any talks that have been reportedly held between him and Red Bull. All of this is creating a lot of drama on the grid. But at the end of the day, it's Russell, the driver who needs to think about what's best for his future. Yes, Mercedes does seem like the best option right now. And what we must say is there's always the slightest possibility that the Silver Arrows will demote Antonelli and develop him in Alpine or Williams before they bring him back again into Mercedes. But if they do this, make no mistake, it's going to ruin the chemistry between the Italian driver and the Brackley-based squad. So a comeback would be highly impossible from this point of view. And it's just an additional obstacle that Mercedes needs to tackle in front of themselves. What we can be very certain of is that Russell's future in Mercedes is very uncertain. He has a contract until the end of this year, and Wolff is adamant that the talks will take a little bit longer than usual. If that's the case, and if everything is set in place, Mercedes would be so sure about Russell and Antonelli being their lineup from 2026 onwards. What is also worth adding is that Toto Wolff missed out on Verstappen once in his career, and he's not going to miss this chance for a second time. With all of this in mind, do you think that Antonelli and Verstappen will be teammates from 2026 onwards? And if so, where do you think this will put Russell in the greater scheme of things? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.